Alright, back for another beer review, and today I'll be reviewing yet another beer from Revolution Brewing, and they're out of Chicago, Illinois, and this is their V.S.O Gravedigger, and this is a part of their Deep Wood series, and this is the 2023 release. So they're calling this one a Scotch Ale, Asian bourbon barrels. It comes in at 14.9% alcohol by volume. No IBUs listed. Time of review, this can is approximately 2.5 months old. And I'm gonna give a huge thanks, a shout out once again to a very good friend of mine and viewer of the channel, Chris, for this beer. So big thanks to him. In the description box, I'll post a link to the beer mail unboxing video I did that contains all the goodies he sent my way. And I was super excited when I knew he was sending this one my way because I really enjoy Gravedigger Billy, which is their Scotch Ale aged in bourbon barrels. I reviewed the 2022 release last year, and it was really good. Not my favorite release of it in recent memory as far as the vintages go, but I've always enjoyed that one. And when they put a V.S.O on their labels, what that basically means is very special old beer. And what Revolution says, according to their website, is when you see V.S.O on their labels, that means that the beer specifically is a blend of two different barrels that the beer was in, and those barrels have to be at least aged for 2 years, or the beer in the barrel for at least 2 years. The blend that this one has is Eagle Rare, Elijah Craig, and a WhistlePig Rye. So 3 different barrels. And like I said, they're aged for at least 2 years. So this sounds amazing to me. I can't wait to get into it. I'm just so happy that Chris was nice enough to throw it into the beer mail. Yeah, I'm super ecstatic. Let's give it a pour. Oh yeah. Now, it's not looking super thick, but a lot of times Scotch ales do not look that thick. But this is going to be like my nightcap, my dessert, whatever you want to call it. I'm going to be drinking the rest of this. I know, put it this way, I don't go into reviews of preconceived notions, but you also have to make educated guesses on how you think a beer is going to be. And I'm telling you right now, I'm going to like this beer. It's just, to what degree am I going to like this beer? I don't know. But anyway, that pours out a really deep, murky, like mahogany color. It's like a darker brown into a rye. On camera, though, it's probably going to look a little bit darker, but like you hold it up to the light, it almost has like a Coca-Cola kind of look to it. Not quite to like a stout, but it has like that, more like a root beer. It has a little bit of like a brown tinge here at the bottom. There's alcohol legs all over the glass. It had this really nice tan-colored head that is now dissipated to a thin film. A lot of times when these beers are, 15%, it's hard to hold a head. Really can't see through it. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I thought the beer would look like in general. So anyway, let's get a nose. It smells so fucking good. Let me tell you something, as personal preference. This will be a longer review, so I don't give a shit if I start going off on tangents, whatever. Beers like this, I know they're going to be good, and they deserve a proper review, and me kind of telling you about like my experiences with different styles and the beers before and whatnot. So they're going to be longer reviews, so I apologize. You just want to fast forward to me tasting the beer, I get it. But I think Scotch ales, especially barrel-aged Scotch ales, are one of the most underrated barrel-aged styles and one of the most underrated styles in general. I love them. I love the smokiness you can sometimes get from them. I just love the malt complexities. And I think the barrels, especially if you get like a nice smoky or charry barrel or something with a perceived like kind of just nice sweetness, like more vanilla, I think it just plays well with the base beer. And that's what I'm getting here. It's so delightful. There is a absolutely shit ton of different darker fruits, and like there's stone fruits, there's prunes, there's dates, there's figs, there's black cherries, and it's almost like those are bourbon or whiskey soaked, and then you might have drizzled some caramel, some chocolate, maybe some toffee on top. That's exactly what I'm getting in the nose. It's wild. There's a decent kick of vanilla too from the barrel. There's a perceived smoky, almost charred kind of feel. It could be from the barrel, could be from the base Scotch ale itself. There's almost a nuttiness, a perceived nuttiness too in the nose. There's a little bit of like a leather, not quite tobacco, but more like a leather. This is like more into like an actual spirit than a beer. Like there's so many malt complexities to this one. It's wild how awesome this smells. Just got a little bit of a dark grape now there too. Oh man, I could sit here and smell this forever. Now, I will say, the 14.9%, that last smell, definitely some ethanol, some like vapors hitting my nose. Like I can tell it's a bigger beer. But I don't give a shit because it smells amazing. Let's get into it. Cheers, everybody. Thanks again to Chris. I really do appreciate it. Good sir. Cheers. I might see a little bit of condensation on the side of the glass here. This is right out of my darker beer fridge that I keep at 54. Probably drinking this like, 55 to like 58 right now. Perfect temperature for this. It's fucking awesome. Like I didn't want to say anything right away because I just wanted to kind of sit on my palate. This is fucking dynamite is what this is. This is not going to get a 5 out of 5. And the reason I say that right off the get-go is this is a little bit thin for 15% or 14.9. It's not super thin. Drinks more like 11, 12% beer, but it's thin enough where I can't give it that 5 out of 5. But that, as far as what I'm tasting, is the only detraction to this beer. Like, it's fucking awesome. Yeah, so body's like lower side of full body. Something in that realm, maybe like low to medium full. I want this to be a little bit thicker. Not quite chewy, but I just want to be full bodied. It needs to be full bodied. And it's not. So it's a little bit of a bummer. The mouthfeel, on the other hand, exactly what I expected. Has a decent carbonation, mild to moderately carbonated, but it's really smooth on the palate, especially for something that's 14.9%. Am I getting alcohol? Yeah. I mean, it's almost 15%. You expect it. Big warming in the chest, a little bit of astringent on the palate, but you expect it from something this big. So it's not a deterrent to the beer itself. The flavors, though, this is super complex and all over the place, but in the best way possible. It's cohesive without question. Right up front, all that malt goodness. I'm getting a smoky kind of malt sensation. All those dark fruits I talk about, figs, dates, prunes, plums. I didn't say plum, I don't think, in the nose. Definitely plums. Darker fruits, stone fruits, a little bit of black cherry, darker grape. You could say whatever, and that hits me the first half of the palate. And again, it's like somebody soaked them in bourbon, but I'm not getting the bourbon right at the get-go. So it's just like those fruits with like caramel and chocolate, like a dark chocolate, 50-60% cacao powder. Like if you took that bar and you melted it down and like drizzled it over, maybe even a little bit of toffee as well. But then halfway through the palate is where it becomes more of like a soaked kind of fruity kind of character, because the bourbon hits, or the whiskey, or the combination of those barrels, and it gives you that peppery kind of sweeter bourbon note. But I'm also getting a decent blast of vanilla. And what I like about this one is, while the barrel aging is present and the presence is felt, it doesn't have that super dry oak tanniny thing that I get a lot of times with big beers like this that are barrel aged, and sometimes can ruin the finish or detract from the beer itself. It's not doing that here. This is very sweet up front, but man, does it balance out, because there is a pretty big dryness, but it doesn't have that oak tan dryness. This is like full on dry, right? So mild bitterness, not overly bitter. Again, I love that the oak presence isn't over the top, but you definitely get the barrel, the spirit within the barrel. The barrel just, the most I'm getting from the barrel is the vanilla, and I think it works the best. What else is there? I don't know. This is fucking awesome. This is an awesome beer. I'm so happy that I got a chance to try it. Again, big boozy presence. The booze itself, I definitely know I'm drinking a big like 13, 14, 15% beer without question from the booze. That could be something that bothers some people, and sometimes it would even bother me, but I don't really care because the flavors are so good. But it's definitely going to probably pick up and kind of, even get a little bit more intense over the course of me finishing that glass in the next, hour or so. And I definitely get a warming in the chest, warming into the stomach. It's definitely warming, 100%. Dare I say it's hot, as the kids would say. I don't know if they actually say that nowadays. But yeah, it definitely has a boozy presence to it. Yeah, I don't know. There's not much more to say about this. I would say the negatives to me, definitely the thinner body, and maybe the booze being a little bit too, over the top. But again, it's 14.9%. You kind of expect it to be boozy. I just wish it wasn't as thin as it is. That said, this is a fucking phenomenal, top-notch barrel-aged Scotch Ale. Definitely better than the 2022 vintage I had of the Gravedigger Billy. And this is fucking delicious. If I lived in Chicago, I would 100% be just buying every single Revolution release, period. Like, there's one of the best barrel programs in America, period, maybe even the world. Anyway, V.S.O. Gravedigger from the Deepwood series, the 2023 release, the 2023, I'm already getting hammered, 2023 release. I'm gonna give this a low 4.75, go 4.7. This is fucking phenomenal. This is one of the best barrel-aged beers I've had this year. Definitely one of the best barrel-aged beers I've had in a hot minute, and I am so happy Chris was nice enough to send me a can of this. So thank you, Chris. I do appreciate it from the bottom of my heart, dude. Fantastic stuff. Price point availability, correct me if I'm wrong, Chris, or anybody else. I'm sure if it makes like distro in and around Chicago, it's probably more than at the brewery, but at the brewery, I think these are $39.99 a 4-pack, so $10 for a 12 fluid ounce can of this. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. 100%. I'm fine with that. Even if it was like 12 to 13 bucks a can, I would pay that because it's fucking quality through and through. And the availability, Revolution, I don't know. I just know here in Buffalo, New York, we don't see their stuff. And if you could ask me, like, realistically, one brewery that could get distro to your area and doesn't, that upsets you, these guys. They get into Ohio, and they might get into certain parts of Pennsylvania, but they definitely get into Ohio. They get into Michigan. It's like, I would love to see them here because I would buy all of their barrel-aged releases. And I would like to try more from just like their regular beers too, because I haven't had many from them. So anyway, thanks again to Chris. Thanks to everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. If you've had this beer before, post in the comment section. Let me know what you thought about it. I do think that this is a beer that probably won't get as high of ratings as like an Imperial Stout would get with this kind of treatment, or like a barley wine, just because Scotch ales, again, I think they're a little bit underrated, at least for me personally. And I think there's a lot of people who just don't mess with Scotch ales in general. I love Scotch ales, and I think this beer is great for the style, without question. So huge thanks to Chris. Thanks to everybody stopping by for another beer review here on the Beer Patrol. To the next one. Cheers.